Greetings, everyone. I'm Mar, and once again, this is my opinion. With Curse of Frankenstein, Hammer breathed fresh life into the IP. Released in color and featuring gore and sex appeal, the film was a financial success and turned Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee into horror icons. A direct sequel was released the following year, once again featuring Cushing as Dr. Frankenstein. It too made money, but it would be 6 years before Hammer produced another Frankenstein film, this time partnered with Universal Pictures. Released in 1964, The Evil of Frankenstein is the fruit of this partnership. A reboot retaining Cushing, it features elements of the classic Universal films with a Hammer flair. Beginning on an average night for the good doctor, Frankenstein's latest experiment is interrupted by a priest. Whether one agrees with his methods, he does have a point about the priest trespassing. Thankfully for the father, there's no stand your ground law. Frankenstein and his assistant Hans, one of Hammer's favorite names, manages to escape. Low on funds, they head to Karlstead, where Frankenstein once worked. The doctor plans on selling his belongings to fund future experiments. Logical, but head-scratching considering years have passed. Did the good doctor expect all his belongings would be waiting? Through a flashback, Frankenstein reveals how he created his monster. Despite Frankenstein's best efforts and intentions, his creation escapes, causing havoc by killing sheep. Not the worst mischief, but devastating for a small village. The police shot the monster, causing it to retreat to the mountains, where he's lost in a crevice. Luck is on Frankenstein's side, as the monster is still in said crevice, locked in a block of ice. The monster's thawed out and goes on a rampage in classic Universal fashion. Longtime cinematographer Freddie Francis replaces Terence Fisher in the director's chair. Having won an Oscar and worked on other Hammer productions like Never Take Sweets from a Stranger, Francis was a natural choice. While not a huge fan of horror or special effects films according to the Blu-ray, Francis directed the film well. Despite his reservations with effects, the laboratory shots are great. The right balance of colorful and dungy. Design-wise, they pay respect to Universal's classics while feeling fresh. The rear projection shot aged poorly, but given the budget, it's expected. While he would direct many films after this, including the 70s Tales from the Crypt, which reunited him with Cushing, Francis found greater career success as a cinematographer, helming The Elephant Man, Dune, and Glory, for which he won a second Academy Award. Peter Cushing is once again excellent as Dr. Frankenstein, coming across less evil this time. While his experiments are morally questionable and he does steal a body during the prologue, he doesn't directly kill anyone. The monster does, but that action occurs once any control is taken from Frankenstein. While Cushing doesn't have much new to do, what he does he plays with dignity and class. Cushing was so dedicated to the role, he sought advice from medical professionals on how to carry himself during the operating scenes. He wanted to convince doctors watching, and it helps his physical performance. As an aside, for the shot of him cutting open a body during the credits, Cushing was cutting into cabbage. Gives the appropriate crunch sound. Kathy Wilde is alright as Rena. With no lines of dialogue, her entire performance is body language and facial expressions. A hard job for even the greatest thespian. Wilde was convincing. On the Blu-ray, she stated she always seeks truth in her roles, and as Rena, I feel she succeeded. Rena has a connection with the creature that is never directly explained, but enough is shown for the audience to infer she empathizes with how he's been treated. Wilde says as much in her interview. New Zealand wrestler Kiwi Kingston played the monster. Cast mainly for his size, he's a poor successor to Lee and Karloff. Story-wise, there's not much for Kingston to do but lumber around and grunt, and even that he doesn't do convincingly. That was all Lugosi was given after his dialogue was trimmed and he came across better. Heck, even Lon Chaney Jr. was a better monster. While his castmates agree Kingston was miscast, they state he was a pleasure to work with. Compounding King's poor performance is the poor makeup. In certain shots, one can even see pieces flaking. This would be serviceable for a play or Halloween costume, not a theatrical film production. Flaking aside, I do like the large stitches holding the monster's head together. According to the Blu-ray, they used bootlaces for the effect. While it's admirable for Hammer to emulate Jack Pierce's design, Retroactively, it probably would have been a better idea to go their own route like they did with Curse. Other than the makeup, the film recycles plot elements from the classic Universal series. The modern-day equivalent would be Halloween 2018. Zoltan using the monster for revenge is taken from Igor in Son of Frankenstein. Peter Woodthrop does what he can with the material, but sadly it rings hollow, mainly because of his character's motivation. So you didn't have the proper permits. Truly a reason to commit mass murder. At least Igor's motivation over his botched hanging was understandable. Frankenstein finding the monster encased in ice is taken from Meets the Wolfman. The reawakening there doesn't require another bolt of lightning. The monster's creation and aftermath is derivative of the original Karloff film, even including the monster's reaction to a light source, but it goes its own path once he escapes. The angry villagers and laboratory burning. Too many films to choose from. Universal sure did love their formulaic endings. John Banks composed the score. Trained as a jazz composer, Banks' style suits the film's tone and structure. The main theme feels ripped from a classic Universal film, hyping one up for the monster action. The Evil of Frankenstein is a flawed time waster. While it doesn't break new ground for the Hammer series and its derivative of Universal's to the point of overfamiliarity, it's entertaining enough, carried by spectacle and Peter Cushing. No classic, but a decent tribute.